Manchester City have just dropped points and probably lost the Premier League title away against a relegation threatened West Ham team. But what did West Ham do tactically in order to achieve this result? And the answer to that question is nothing. They didn't do anything special. They were very predictable. They were very poor in this game. But Pep Guardiola set Man City up just completely wrong. It was even worse. And that starts with the starting lineup, right? I just don't really understand what the thought process was here, because we've had success against Newcastle, and yes, it didn't work against Real Madrid, with going back to what we were doing kind of originally near the start of the season, using the wingers, playing through your individual quality players like Doku, Cherki, moving away from the physicality, getting Savinho in there. And we've kind of pivoted back this game for some reason. We've gone back to the 4-2-2 that we've seen a lot recently, where its focus is on physicality. It's about getting Nico O'Reilly into the middle, packing the midfield with physical bodies rather than technical players like Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Nico O'Reilly and Semenyo. All these guys are really good out of possession, but the problem is we know West Ham are going to come and play in a low block. It's a Nuno Espirito Santos team. They were always going to set up in this 5-2-3 shape you can see here. And what that means is that we have to go and break that down, which means you need individual quality, you need technical players. And we don't have any of that, right? In the pockets here, you've got Nico O'Reilly, Marmoush, Haaland and Semenyo. Who there is going to create something? They're all really good out of possession, and we were really good off the ball in this game. But none of them are creators. They're all goal scorers, if you will, box crashers. And I kind of think the idea in this game was to cross the ball a lot. We've got Aït-Nouri and Núñez out wide, who are putting a lot of crosses in earlier. They're pushing up to hold the width like this. But West Ham are notoriously bad at defending crosses. So I think the idea was to pack the box with your physical players. You know, Haaland, Semenyo, O'Reilly, all these guys are quite threatening in the air, and just whip crosses into the box. And I hate the concept of that. I hate the concept of that. And we're going to talk why more later after I show you some in-game examples. But I just don't think this is the identity of Manchester City, because yes, West Ham are bad at defending this. We're also bad at attacking it. As big as Erling Haaland is, he's not really this physical presence in the box. And that meant we didn't create chances and score goals until Cherki came on, until Doku came on. And you can see that in the data. And I'm going to use some in-game examples now to show you guys why the starting lineup was a problem, because it was a problem. West Ham initially, they're very compact in their defensive low block. They're set up in this why is that not working? In this 5-2-3 kind of shape, right? And the idea is to be compact, to limit central spaces, and force us to play out wide. And what you can see is as the game progresses, their shape becomes even narrower. Again, you've got the 5-2-3, but look at how they're not really bothered about the wide space here like they were before. Here you can see Aaron Wan-Bissaka getting really tight to Aït-Nouri. This ball is kind of risky, whereas here it's not, because they're not bothered about this pass anymore, because they've realised Núñez and Aït-Nouri don't really have attacking threat. They're not players that are going to beat the fullback, get to the byline and put in a dangerous low ball like Doku is. You can afford to let them have space out wide because they're not really threatening. You can just defend the box, and that's exactly what West Ham did. And by doing that, they limited space in central areas for our less technical players, so they just couldn't create anything. And I've got some examples of this. Here's Semenyo in the middle, quite a clunky player for me. He gets on the ball here in a nice position, but because he's not as creative, as technical as someone like Ryan Cherki, he loses the ball. He tries to play it through to Marmoush. It's a bad pass. It happens, right? But this was happening consistently, and that's the problem. Again, Semenyo finds a nice bit of space. He gets on the ball. He loses it. Again, here, Semenyo finds a nice bit of space in transition. Can he drive with it, create something? No, he can't. He loses the ball again. And what this meant is that because we couldn't play through central areas, we had to resort to just crossing the ball into the box and trying to get a head on, playing Arsenal football almost. And I think this is a problem because that's not who we are. It's not really our identity. But there's so many examples of us crossing the ball in situations where maybe we wouldn't normally cross it. Instead, we choose to recycle it. Like, this is the pass you'd expect Rodri to make here, but instead it's going with a long ball into the box. Again, Núñez here, long ball into the box instead of recycling it. Bernardo Silva here, long ball into the box, a cross instead of recycling it like we'd normally do. Aït-Nouri, early, cross. Aït-Nouri again here, it's another cross. This was a common theme in this game. We were trying to create through crosses when we're not really aerially dominant, and I don't think that makes sense to me. Even the goal is kind of a cross, and we're going to go through the goal here. The ball breaks for Semenyo in the middle of the park, in spaces like we've seen him get consistently in this game, and here he actually picks a really nice pass. He plays it into O'Reilly, who can turn, and eventually we work the ball over to Marmoush here. Bernardo Silva's made a really clever run here, because he spotted Aaron Wan-Bissaka is caught up the pitch here, and there is space in the wide area, and he attacks that space. We create the overload against this West Ham defender, and he gets into a crossing position. He's trying to put the ball up to the back post for Erling Haaland making this run. I'm almost like 100% sure of that. And we get a bit lucky. He dinks the goalkeeper, which if he meant it is fantastic skill, and we scored the goal. But crossing was the theme here because we didn't have the technical quality to create chances through playing through the central areas like we'd normally want to. And you can see that on Opta. We were crossing the ball at an insane volume this game. Like, we wouldn't normally cross this much. It's mental that we did. And I think this then leads to an identity problem in this game because for me, Manchester City are a team that play wonderful, free-flowing, attacking, quick football. We're about your Ryan Cherkis, your Dokus, your Phil Fodens, your Reinders, your Savinhos. That's what we are, right? And we're not doing that at the moment. It's almost like we're trying to be Arsenal. And I think that's weird. And it's because Pep Guardiola is in a stage of his career which he's never really been in before. He's in a unique place. Previously, for the decade or two he's been managing, he's always been leading the tactical landscape. He's always been pioneering it, tweaking first while everyone else copies him. And now for the first time, he's not doing that. Arteta's pioneering it with all this physicality. And what we've learned previously is that if you try and copy the guy who's pioneering it, you don't win. No one has ever beat Pep Guardiola by playing Pep Guardiola football. Yet, for some reason, Pep Guardiola thinks he could beat Arteta by trying to play Arteta football. It doesn't really make sense because Arsenal are better set up to play that style of football. They've got more physical players than us. So we're never going to be better than them at playing that football. Yet we're trying to play this football. Like, we'll talk about the out-of-possession stuff in a second, but we played big physical brutes in this game and tried to cross. That's exactly what Arsenal do. We should be leaning on our Dokus or Ryan Cherkis because the only way we're going to beat Arsenal in the Premier League is by playing our style, playing a different style. That's how we get the edge, right? You're not getting the tactical edge in being the same because we're worse than them at that. That's a fact. I want to go more positive now and talk about out of possession stuff as well because it was very successful. We were very good out of possession in this game. Again, like always, we're set up in our diamond press, like you can see here, with Nico Riley and Semenyo playing the wide roles that are difficult. It's where the weakness is in this press, really, because they can make these jumps. Like if the ball comes out wide here, Nico Riley is quick enough to close that down effectively. Same with Semenyo on the other side if the ball comes out here, right? So the press was really good in this game, and this is where you can kind of play devil's advocate because Pep Guardiola set up to be really strong out of possession and limit West Ham having much going forward, and it did work. West Ham had one shot in this game. Like, they didn't create a lot going forward, and therefore you can argue it kind of worked. The setup worked. Not playing these individual brilliant creative players worked. Like, maybe it was right because West Ham's goal is just unlucky at the end of the day. Like, it's a corner that comes in, Donnarumma comes from it, completely misses the ball like he does almost every game because he's absolutely terrible at claiming crosses, and then they head into an open goal. That's the only shot they had in the whole game, and that's because the press was successful. You can see here, we are set up in the diamond press, like always. See this diamond. And we're trying to press the ball out wide here. We force the ball back to the goalkeeper, and he plays it wide to Debo. And now you have Nico Riley in this role here instead of someone like Doku. He can make this jump, and he does make the jump. He's very quick out, forces the ball down the line. Aït-Nouri steps up onto Mateus Fernandes, and here we're closing in, right? You've got the ball pressed in between the line. This is a really nice position to be in, and eventually we force it into a tight space and win the ball back. The press was undoubtedly successful in this game, but as a result of making the press good, yes, we had lots of territory and possession, but we didn't really do anything creatively with that, and that is my problem. And Pep Guardiola clearly agreed with this. He didn't think we were creating enough chances, and that's why in the second half, we changed tactics. We moved away from the 4-2-2 to something much more similar to what we were doing at the start of the season. He brought Jeremy Doku on to hold the width of the left-hand side, and he wasn't really coming inside like he was at the start of the season. He was very much out wide, with O'Reilly making the inverted run, playing in this area at left-back. But Cherki came on to give you that individual brilliance in the middle, that creativity. Foden came on to give you that in the middle, and Nunes is still pushing up high on the right, holding the width, and you kind of have this 2-2 rest defence structure with Rodri and Reinders, sometimes with Reinders pushing up in here as well. And I think it was way more effective. We were actually creating chances, and that is obviously very important because now you have Doku to create threat off the left. West Ham can't be as narrow anymore because when the ball That's Rodri. When the ball comes out wide to Doku, he's in a 1v1 with Wan-Bissaka. He's winning that battle, and he did win that battle and create a lot of chances. And we can see this clear change in the in-game examples. Here you can see the general setup. We have this shape we were talking about, the 2-2 rest defense, and then Doku out wide on the left, holding that width, getting 1v1 with Wan-Bissaka, Nunes pushing all the way up, holding the width off the right, and then in here now, instead of Semenyo, Marmoush, these clunky goal scorers, you have your technical players. You have Phil Foden, Cherki in there, who are going to create something. They have that individual brilliance to break down this West Ham block, and that's exactly what they did. Here's one example. Doku gets the ball out wide in a very similar position to what Aït-Nouri did in the first half. In the first half, Aït-Nouri would have just crossed it. Doku does not do that. Instead, he's going to take Wan-Bissaka on, go down the line and generate a better opportunity by doing that. And that's exactly what he does. He beats him, get to a nice position, puts in a really good ball, goes through everyone, and somehow Foden doesn't finish this. He can't quite get to it. Haaland doesn't get to it, kind of just runs across everyone, but it's a really dangerous ball into a nice area. Again here, Doku 1v1 with Wan-Bissaka, cuts back in, beats him, finds a lovely ball into Erling Haaland, who fluffs his shot and drags it wide. But again, another good chance generated by Doku on the pitch. And I think this is an interesting one as well, because this comes from the players that were already on the pitch. But I want to talk about Erling Haaland's impact here and how he creates this chance by not touching the ball even. Just initially, Semenyo finds a nice pass into Rodri here. You can see holding the width again, the structure's all the same. But just look at the gap in the West Ham back line here. Look at this, and just look at how many people are around Haaland. 3 defenders all focused on Haaland. If Haaland isn't there, the positioning of, I think this is Mavropanos, really, he should be further across. He should be cutting out that Nunes passing lane. But he's not. That opens up the passing lane, and it gives Rodri, I don't want to do that. It gives Rodri a chance to play Nunes in, and he doesn't get a shot off quick enough. But because of Erling Haaland, this chance has been created, and this is what Ryan Cherki does as well, right? Literally the first minute after he's come on, he picks up the ball in a very similar position to what we saw Semenyo getting it in a lot in the first half, and he has that individual quality to play Haaland through on goal and generates a good chance. I think Haaland fluffs this one as well, drags it past the left post, but we're creating chances by having these individual brilliant players on the pitch, and I just can't understand why when we're playing against the low block, we haven't started with these guys. But anyway, that completes the analysis of the game. If you guys enjoyed, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, whatever helps it. Leave a comment of what you think. Can we still win the Premier League? Is it done? I think it's probably done, but if we can beat Arsenal at home, is it over? Maybe not. Let me know in the comments.